Hey everyone, I'm here with a video response to the community, cliques, and friendship video tag that has been going around for the past few weeks, I think. I wasn't really aware of it. I feel like I'm always kind of the last to hear about these things. But until a couple of people that I kind of follow the regular, videos had made a video about this. So I guess that there was an original one made a few weeks ago, and then there's been like a lot of responses to it since. So I heard about it, and I thought, well, I should look at this, right? So I saw a couple of videos, and people had some pretty interesting and thoughtful things to say. And then they were talking about how there were people who were kind of saying, negative things about the community. And I watched one in particular, and I won't name any names, but I watched one in particular where it just really struck me as just very negative. And I thought, I kind of wanted to respond to just generally kind of what's going on. And quite frankly, I find it to be a bit of a tempest in a teapot, to be honest about it. It seems like these things happen in communities online every so often, and it doesn't matter what the community is. Whether it's, I've seen it happen in the gothy online community, I've seen it happen, in the witchy community, and now in the tarot community, that someone, kind of gets their bee in their bonnet about something, whether it's, somebody's more popular than them, or, oh, that person has more followers, or, it's always something. It'd be something minor, and then it becomes this big, giant thing. So I wanted to talk first about community and what that means. And community, generally, anything can be a community where people have a shared common element. For example, we're all parts of lots of different communities. We're part of the community of the country we live in, the town we live in, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we agree with everybody in our country or town, but we share a geographical location. Same thing with online. If you're part of the tarot community, then you're making videos about tarot cards, but you may not agree with everybody around you. So community doesn't necessarily mean you have shared ideas. It just means there's a common element there. So we hear some people saying things like, oh, there isn't a community. Well, I think they don't really understand what the word community means. It just means that there's a shared common element between a group of people. I mean, I'm part of the YouTube community, the big YouTube community, a part of the tarot community, witchy community, at work I'm part of that community. That's what that means in a very broad sense. Now, how you feel about that community, well, that can change, right? Do you have shared values with that community? Do you feel a sense of respect or a sense of belonging in that community? Well, those are different questions. But when I hear people say there isn't a community, I just think they don't really know what that means. So community, a tarot community exists. Whether or not you find it to be positive or negative, well, that's up to you. The next thing, the bigger thing I think people have been talking about, is the idea of cliques. Now, a clique is a closed group that does not allow other people to enter it. So again, I think people are confusing things. I think they're confusing groups of friends, people who have more intimate, closer relationships, with cliques. And cliques has a negative connotation to it because we've experienced these things, most of us, to some extent, probably when we're younger. And so as soon as somebody says that, it has this negative connotation. And it means a closed group that doesn't allow others in or is very hard to get into. So I hear people saying, oh, there's cliques. And I'm like, what are they talking about? So, I listened to some people's responses, and especially the one that was, particularly negative. And I think that there is a misunderstanding. They're saying that people having private sort of Facebook groups or having closed Facebook groups or having online chats or cliques, but those don't fit the definition of cliques. Facebook, the way that it works, a lot of people have closed groups. In fact, most groups now, I would say a lot of them, maybe not most, but a fair amount of them are closed. For example, I have a Facebook group and it's closed, but it's not to it's not because I don't want people to join it. I do. I have it that way so that people don't just wander by on the internet and join it that don't have common interests. So when somebody, asks to join, there's 3 basic questions, and it's just to make sure that they are interested in things like tarot and astrology or whatever, and that they're interested in talking to people about similar things. So it's just to make sure that people are, cohesive, that we have some shared things, that you watch the channel, that you have some of the shared ideas and thoughts in a certain way. That doesn't mean people have to agree. It just means, do you like tarot? Do you like creative things? Okay, I'd love you to join the group. And I think that's the way most closed groups are, because there's people who join every group that they see, and they're a member of like 100 groups, but they don't actually add any value to the group. So that, when it says closed group, it doesn't mean nobody can go here. It just means you have to ask to join. That's all it means. As for the live chats, that's a way for people to connect with each other that is more in the moment than making a comment on a YouTube page. So I don't really understand how people can think that's a clique. And of course, some of the people that are making comments in the groups or on the online chats are going to know each other better or going to talk to each other more. That's just the nature of people. So I don't really understand why people are angry about that. I also think that the negativity this person spewed seemed to be really focused on what I would state is jealousy. If you want to have friends in the community, which I think is what this person ultimately wants, then you need to make friends. You need to comment. You need to join the chats. You need to join the groups and, provide quality content, so to speak. You need to say something nice to somebody. You need to provide information, add value, do something like that. And I think that maybe there's this expectation that just because you're in a group or you make a comment on a live chat that everyone's going to respond. Well, if there's hundreds of people in a group, or there's, dozens and dozens of people in a live chat, it's easy for those things to get missed. And it doesn't necessarily mean that people are trying to exclude an individual. Just not everybody has time for that. And sometimes you have to make sure that you are continuing to do those things. You can't just put in an effort once and then go, oh, well, they're excluding me. So I wonder if there's things like that people are feeling. I also think too, there's some talk about, oh, well, these people have all these followers. Some YouTube channels, just like with Instagram or any other social media, are going to be more popular than others for whatever reason. It could be more people resonate with the content. It may have better production values than me sitting in my bedroom with my guitars, There's all sorts of reasons why a channel could have more followers than another. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have less followers, your content is less, intelligent or valuable. Sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes people are in the right place at the right time. Sometimes the algorithms are working in their favor at that particular point. And sometimes people have just put in more to the community. They have written books. They've, their business is that. So they put that in all that time. Maybe they hold live chats. And I think that being jealous of people who do these things really comes back to, well, what are you doing? And if you're jealous of somebody for having a Facebook group or for having a live chat, well, then start your own Facebook group. Have your own live chat. Make your own friends, rather than getting angry at people who are doing those things. And I certainly think that maybe looking to others that have more followers can be inspiring. What are they doing right? What are they doing that you can do? And I also think that to me shows a lack of gratitude. Whether you're playing for 30 people at a gig or you're playing for 30,000, everybody showed up to see you, right? I'm using a music analogy, but it's the same thing with YouTube. I appreciate everybody who shows up to watch me talk about stuff, and whether that's one person or 100 or 1,000 people, I think it's amazing that anybody anybody wants to watch. So I appreciate all of you who are watching this and everybody who comments and people who want to join a Facebook group to talk to each other and stuff and to connect. I think that's amazing and awesome and one of the wonderful gifts of the internet. But I think what it also boils down to for, it's certainly a minority that are, saying these kind of things is I think underneath that sort of jealous, bitter thing that I'm seeing in, like I said, a very small minority, is a deeper longing for connection and friendship. And I think that the expectations of what an online community can provide to you may not be realistic. I think that the internet's a wonderful gift. And I think that it has led to people making wonderful friendships, but it doesn't always. And connecting over a screen can't always replace connecting with people in person. So if someone's feeling isolated, then they probably don't have people in the real world around them. Not that the internet isn't real, but there's something about that face-to-face connection, and I think sometimes they're seeing people online chatting to each other with a sense of familiarity that maybe have met each other in real life. And so there is that back and forth and that familiarity, and they're not seeing that element of it. Or they've even gone to meet that person once or talked to them over the phone. Even people that like direct message each other, that's more intimate than just putting a comment in a Facebook group. But that doesn't mean those connections aren't real. I think it's just what are you expecting out of the community? So I think there's that element that's going on. And I think they're seeing these connections and they don't always know the whole story behind them. And they're longing for that. And then they lash out at the people who have those connections already. So I think they have to ask themselves, well, what are they looking for out of the online community? What are they looking for out of YouTube? What are they looking for out of Facebook? What are they looking for out of whatever, Instagram, whatever it is? And they may feel jealous of people who have those connections. But I would encourage somebody who feels that way to try and make your own connections. And just because you're not part of one friend group doesn't mean that you can't make your own friend group and have your own connections with people who resonate with you. So it's like in school, I wasn't one of the more popular kids, but that's okay. I had my own friends and we did our own things and we had fun with each other. And so when you have that community of your own, you're not jealous of other people's sense of friendship. So I think there's a problem with definitions. I think there's also a problem with expectations out of what to expect from an online community. And also, I think that there's this deeper longing for connection that comes out in a negative fashion when people start to say these things. The most extreme I've seen is, again, one in particular negative video that I saw, accusing people, and they named people, and, it's of running a cult. And quite frankly, that is just batshit crazy. I've not seen any cultish behavior or people running cults. In fact, I'm a little insulted if there is one that I wasn't invited. I want to wear a robe and chant things. I do. Also, what's wrong with me that you don't want me to join your cult? Anyway, I'm joking around. But, just because somebody is fairly popular on YouTube doesn't mean that they're a cult. A cult is a group that does exclusionary practices, that says you can have no other friends but these ones, you can only hang around with these people, that takes all people's money, that abuses people, that says, I am the ultimate authority and you cannot question it and nobody else. I have not seen anybody do anything even remotely close to that. And again, that kind of language is designed to be insulting. So I think that I dismiss the cult thing just completely out of hand. I'm running out of time, but those are my thoughts about it. What are your thoughts about it? And if you want to join a Facebook community, I have one. It is in the links below. And like I said, you just have to answer a couple questions. That's all. We're a friendly bunch. Really, come join us. Anyway, thank you very much. Let me know your thoughts. I think it's an interesting discussion. And as always, peace and love and rock.